Welcome to the PreSnap Podcast presented by LineStar. All things fantasy football with a sprinkle of sports betting. Alongside Tyler Riemann, I'm Shannon Somerville, getting you set for the Thursday night matchup in Week 10 between the Carolina Panthers and the Atlanta Falcons in this NFC South Battle. Tyler, the Atlanta Falcons tied atop the division, 4-5. This is the only division where there's nobody with a winning record. Somehow they're still in the mix, though, tied with the Bucs. Meanwhile, the Carolina Panthers, 2-7 at the bottom of the division. What do you make of the Falcons and the Panthers in their respective positions in the NFC South?
I got a question for you.
Oh, okay.
Do you think the Georgia Bulldogs could beat a team in this division?
Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
I definitely do. You knew the answer to that before you even asked it.
Yeah, I just wanted to set you up.
Yeah,
you're riding high after a win.
But I appreciate you even bringing up the Georgia Bulldogs because that's one of my favorite topics of conversation.
From time to time, I got to set you up.
You go. Well, yes, our Georgia Bulldogs were victorious. Now we'll go to the NFC South and check in on these two squads.
Struggle Street,
yes. As you mentioned, right? No team with a winning record. And if Atlanta wins this, they'll be a step closer to their first winning record since 2017.
Yeah.
How's that for
it is
a cold streak?
It's funny to me that they sold off pieces and they might have got better. It's kind of like the Utah Jazz in the NBA. They just did that.
That's a good point. They went into this season not expecting anything at all. Somehow they're still in the mix as the Bucs have struggled this season, and so they're very much contenders right now. What do you make of the Falcons? I mean, are they a contender?
I mean, they're not a contender in any other division in football. They are in this division, though. I mean, the Bucs are terrible. The Bucs have not been able to figure out their offensive line, and the Falcons somehow just figure out how to stay in every game and give them a chance in the fourth.
Somehow, these two teams 2 weeks ago produced one of the most entertaining games we've seen this season. It was an overtime thriller with both teams combining for 884 total yards. 37-34 was the finals. The Falcons coming out the winners in this one. So, little rematch. Maybe the Carolina Panthers looking for a little revenge. The ending of that was fairly wild as there was the Carolina Panthers had it, but they missed a field goal that would have sealed things up for them. So what did you think of that game, by the way?
It was a fun one.
It wasn't fun for me, I'll tell you why. My opponent in fantasy football had DJ Moore, the wide receiver for the Panthers. So that did not bode well for me because he racked up a ton of points in that.
He sure did. But surprisingly, though, this game could have more offense than most of the primetime games we've seen this year.
That's true. Our Thursday nights games have not really lived up to expectation. Maybe this one will. We'll have your daily fantasy projections, including DJ Moore. But first things first, we've got to check out our injuries for this one. And we're heading to SixScore.com and the Pro Football Docs over there. Make sure to check this periodically. This is as of Tuesday, so there will be some changes coming to game time. Make sure to just keep checking at SixScore.com for any injury updates before you play daily fantasy or place prop bets. So looking at the Doc's diagnosis here, relatively speaking, this is a fairly healthy game, so to speak. We do have a couple injuries to note now. Some good news for the Carolina Panthers is Chuba Hubbard, who was out week 9 with an ankle injury, says he will be playing in this game. Offensive tackle Taylor Moton, though, has been limited in practice with an elbow injury. No word on whether or not that will impact his status for Thursday. Atlanta cornerback A.J. Terrell, who's missed 2 straight games with a hamstring injury. Keep an eye on that one. And safety Eric Harris missed week 9 with a foot injury, did not practice, along with Terrell. Tuesday, keep an eye on those ones as we head into this Thursday night showdown in the NFC North. Let's get to our daily fantasy projections. We'll start things off with the Atlanta Falcons. Quarterback Marcus Mariota's had a decent year, although his passing numbers aren't that high, 176 passing yards per game. He does have 34 rush yards per game, so we know that he's a mobile quarterback that gets it done, not necessarily in the air, but on the ground. Going up against a Carolina Panthers team, their defense has struggled 28th rather, in pass DVOA. Rush defense DVOA ranks 23rd. That bodes well for Mariota in this one.
Yeah, it absolutely does. On either side of the ball, I don't think the offenses are going to have too much struggle. They're going to be just fine. Mariota, he's been serviceable. He's been getting it done, keeping him in games. But when it comes to fantasy, you really need him to be running here to score some points. So,
do you see him running in this one?
So in the games that he has been in that have been close, he has had rushing upside. The games that he hasn't is either they've been dominating or they've got dominated. So I think there is some upside here. He's should be in this game, maybe a slight lead. And so I would see some rushing upside in this game.
There's definitely some rushing upside for the next player we're going to talk about. That's running back Cordarrelle Patterson, who is back in this game. He was back last week coming off an injury. He had 44 yards and 2 touchdowns in that game. We know he is an absolute beast, especially in fantasy. Coming back into this game, he didn't play in the game against Carolina 2 weeks ago. He could be an absolute game changer in this one, especially considering the fact that the Panthers, as I mentioned, ranked 23rd in rush defense DVOA. What do you forecast for Patterson in this one?
Yeah, and we just saw the Panthers get absolutely dominated on the ground by Joe Mixon. So I think Cordarrelle's in a fine spot. The one thing that does worry me is that his price is pretty high. And last week he split carries with Tyler Algier. He had 39% of the snaps. Algier had 38%. Now I think that he will have a little bit larger of a role this week, another week removed from injury and coming back. But I don't think it's going to be a huge dramatic difference. Now, we know Patterson is good. We know he can, break the big play.
Sure.
He can do a lot of things with the ball. So I like him, especially against, a poor rush D. But just don't forget about Algier as well.
Let's get to Tyler Algier, the BYU 5th rounder. And the rookie has been absolutely awesome and really filled the role when Patterson was out. He had a career-high 99 rush yards on 10 carries, plus a 24-yard reception. And he leads the Falcons in rushing this season. And head coach Arthur Smith has just talked about how he's adjusted so well to the NFL game and just has really good spatial awareness. What do you see for him in this matchup?
Yeah, he's been decent. He kind of just stays around.
Yeah.
He busts a couple plays. He's not going to bust like an 80-yarder, but he'll bust 20, 30-yard runs here and there, and he has been very good. So I like him. He is way cheaper than Patterson. His ownership is going to be a lot less too. So I think he is very interesting for the fantasy rosters. We know this Atlanta team is going to just run the ball. That is, if they can control the game, that is what they'll do. They will try and let Mariota pass as little as possible. And with Algier and Patterson, they can do that.
Now, one of the fantasy football enigmas this season has been tight end Kyle Pitts, who is expected to be one of the best tight ends in fantasy football this season. Hasn't lived up to expectations. He did have a great game against the Carolina Panthers 2 weeks ago. He racked up 80 yards and a touchdown in that game, but he's averaging just 35 receiving yards per game on the season. How do you evaluate his matchup against Carolina in this one?
This is another spot I don't think they're going to have to throw. So I don't think Pitts is going to have a good game. I said his obituary on the show a couple weeks ago, and he tricked me by having that one good game.
Came back from the dead in that one.
So just be warned that I have put him to rest once. I'm doing it again. But, I just can't do it. I just don't think Mariota is going to pass that much. With that being said, I also almost had a prop bet today. It was almost Drake London for over receiving yards, and I took that back because I just can't do it. I can't trust this passing game. They're going to try and run the ball as much as they can, and they should be in position this game with possible weather. Also, they should be in position to run the ball this game. So I just don't love the passing.
Yeah, you're mentioning your reluctance to go near the passers or the pass catchers in this one. What about wide receiver Drake London? He had 3 receptions, 23 yards recently against the Chargers. His targets, he had 7 of them. That's the most since week 5. Do you see any upside for him in this game?
I mean, there is some upside just because of the defense we're going against here. But just like Pitts, it's very hard for me to trust any of these pass catchers. If we were to trust one, I might go to Bird over all of them just because if he succeeds, it's on a big play. He's going to be optimal, where these guys are a lot more expensive, and most likely outcome for both of them is like 3 receptions for 30 yards. It's really not going to do anything for you.
Demir Bird revenge game alert, going up against his former team in the Carolina Panthers. So there's that factor as well for Demir Bird pickup in your daily fantasy.
Well against him last game.
Sure did. Had a touchdown in that game.
Yep. It was 3 for 67 and a touchdown.
Let's go to his former team in the Panthers, and the quarterback there we're looking at is PJ Walker. He was announced as the starter, even though last week he got replaced at halftime because he was having an abysmal first half, just 3 of 10 for 9 yards, 2 interceptions in that half against the Bengals. So then Baker Mayfield comes in, but they're sticking with PJ Walker in this one. He had a great game against the Falcons 2 weeks ago in that 37-34 overtime loss, 19 of 36 for 316 yards and a touchdown, including that 62-yard pass to DJ Moore, touchdown pass to tie the game. What do you make of PJ Walker?
Mahomes says that was the best pass of the year.
That is wild.
It's a guy that got benched last week. Had the best pass of the year.
When the MVP frontrunner is saying that your pass was the best of the year, that's pretty high praise.
Yeah.
You know?
Now, PJ Walker, it is going to be scary to put him into any lineups. And the reason being is we don't know the leash that he has. Baker came in the second half last game. Is that going to happen again? We don't know. However, if Walker plays, I do really like him. He can scramble a little bit. He can throw. He likes DJ Moore. We have seen some upside of him, so I don't mind going to him. Just be warned.
Beware of Baker.
That leash might be short.
Yeah, he had a decent game last week, too. His QBR was 83.2, which was the best. The first 5 games he had this season, 15.6 total QBR, so he actually had a decent game there. Going to be interesting to see how this one plays out at quarterback for the Panthers. At running back, Dante Foreman. In 2 games, he's had over 10 carries. In the 2 games that he's had over 10 carries, he's racked up 118 yards rushing. It's just he's got to get those carries. 3 touchdowns against Atlanta 2 weeks ago. What do you make of him going up against this Atlanta rush defense that ranks 22nd in DVOA?
Yeah, I like Foreman this week. He's going to get the majority of the first and second down work. For the third down, we're going to see probably a lot of Chuba Hubbard, who is likely to come back. So you can't expect him to catch many passes, but he is a good runner as long as he's getting those carries. And I think Carolina will be in the game to give him those chances and those opportunities. So I do like Foreman this week.
You mentioned Chuba Hubbard. He is likely back in this one. He insists as of Tuesday that he's going to be playing in this game. Last time he played was week 7 against the Bucs. He had 63 yards and a touchdown in that one. What do you expect for him? You kind of touched on a little bit. You think he might get those third down carries. Is he worth picking up in daily fantasy?
Yeah, so the last time Foreman and Hubbard played together, Hubbard had 46% of the snaps. Foreman had 54%. Now, I think this week, coming back from injury, that we're going to see probably like 60% Foreman and maybe 40% Hubbard. I would expect Hubbard to get all the third down And then some of the series some of the first, second down stuff, but not a ton. Mm-hmm. So I think there is a path to Hubbard. We know the Atlanta defense isn't great. They're actually, frankly, kind of bad. So I think there's opportunity for both these running backs. It's a really weird slate where we could really see 3 running backs in the optimal lineup.
Yeah.
It's an awkward slate for sure.
I will note, though, that Atlanta, even though they're 22nd in rush defense DVOA, however, they've only allowed 2 rushers over 100 yards this season. One was Nick Chubb. We know he's basically the best running back in the NFL this season. However, the other one was Foreman 2 weeks ago. He absolutely tore that defense apart.
It's weird because both of these, so Atlanta, they keep scoring. They're putting up decent scores weekly. But they have this old archaic offense that just runs the ball. But then they're also letting people score on them. So they've been in a lot of shootouts. And, there's a chance we see it again.
Well, what about wide receiver DJ Moore, who I've got some issues with because he made me lose my fantasy matchup 2 weeks ago. Had an absolutely, it absolutely was on that last play where he caught a 62-yard touchdown to tie the game, sending it into overtime and sending Team Shandogs into the L column. Yeah, it was not a good week.
Moore had a couple bad beats lately.
Moore had a great game though. He's averaging 50 receiving yards per game. He had 152 receiving yards in that game. Just absolutely smoked this Falcons defense. They rank 29th in defensive pass DVOA. What do you see for him the second time around against the Falcons?
Yeah, I think DJ Moore is in a decent spot here as long as PJ Walker is starting. If he gets pulled and we see Baker and Moore just have not been on the same page all year long. So there is some risk having Moore because if Walker gets pulled, then, I don't like him quite as much as I would with PJ Walker. But it's a good matchup, one that he can absolutely dominate.
Let's get to some sleepers, shall we?
Dominated Team Shandogs.
Oh, man. Why you got to rub salt in the wound, Tyler?
Uh-huh.
It's okay.
All right.
We'll redeem ourselves here down the stretch when it matters most.
Yes, we will.
You watch out for Team Shandogs in fantasy. Mm-hmm. Let's get to some sleepers for daily fantasy, though, in this week. What do you got?
For flex sleepers, I like Algier. I like Bird. For Carolina, can go LaVisca Chenault.
Okay.
If I know he's a little banged up, so do make sure he's playing. And then Baker Mayfield.
I actually don't hate that pick.
Kidding, not kidding. I'm not really sure.
If for some reason PJ Walker starts to struggle, as you mentioned when you were talking about Walker, they could pull him pretty quick in place of Baker Mayfield, who had a good second half against the Bengals. He had 155 yards, 2 touchdowns in that game, and one of his best performances. So if you got Baker Mayfield on the bench, yes, I know he. Did you see the video of him? What was he? He was almost like a practice defensive tackle.
Oh yeah,
and that doesn't tell me that they value his.
No, I don't
play very much.
I don't think they value him. I think there's a good chance that throughout this week, the PJ Walker leash talk gets talked up too much, where Baker Mayfield's ownership in these contests may go up higher than it should. So I would say one thing is kind of pay attention to what people are saying. If everybody's talking about, hey, this is a good time to use a backup quarterback, maybe step away from it, just because the likelihood is that PJ Walker starts and finishes this game.
But if you wanted to be crazy like a fox, you could be easily. Go to Baker.
People have won off.
He might be feeling dangerous.
Marcus Mariota actually won somebody as a backup quarterback in a primetime game, won somebody $1 million.
There you go. No risk it, no biscuit. So, what about captain MVP spots?
For me, I like Foreman, Moore, Patterson, and Mariota. So Mariota runs one in, then very likely he's going to be captain.
Patterson could just have an incredible game in this one. He's just getting back into it.
The thing that worries about me is that Algier is there, and I don't see them just phasing Algier out.
Right.
He's going to be a part of this. He's done good enough.
To your point, too, I think they're going to start to give Algier some more red zone carries as well, just to...
I don't know.
What do you think?
Patterson's so good in the red zone
that
I doubt they do, but they could. You never know what they're going to do. I mean, they're running a 70s offense. I wasn't born then. I wasn't alive, so I can't tell you what the offense is going to do.
I mean, it's working for them, kind of.
Kind
of 4-5 on the year,
tied with the Bucs. Tied with Tom Brady.
In contention for the NFC South Battle. Could do it. They could take sole possession of first place by the end of this week.
Tom Brady is 1-0 since being divorced.
There you go. We'll try to make it 2-0 in Germany.
Yep.
All right. That's our daily fantasy projections for Week 10. Oh, I can't believe it's already Week 10. Thursday Night Football. Make sure to check out linestarapp.com for all of the information that we just went over. You can get all the stats and analytics to help you dominate in daily fantasy. Plus, we have a lineup optimizer for you. Also, if you're watching us on YouTube right now, do us a favor, like this video if you're enjoying our content, and subscribe to our channel. We want you up to date on all the videos that we're coming out with, and maybe even subscribe for notifications. Click on the bell so you know when we're coming out with the latest videos. Let's get to our touchdown calls of the game, Week 10, Thursday Night Football. Tyler, where are you headed for an anytime touchdown? I'm
going Donta Foreman. He had 3 touchdowns versus them last time he played. I think he's going to at least get a chance for one this game. So we're going with him. Falcons have the 25th ranked against running backs, rush TDs, allowing 0.9 rushes per game. I'm going with Falcons wide receiver Damiere Byrd plus 800. He just has the 23rd best odds to find the end zone in this one, even behind the Atlanta defense. However, this is former Carolina Panther revenge game. Last game against Carolina, he had a touchdown, and that Carolina defense ranks 25th in pass defense DVOA versus wide receiver 3s. Look out for that matchup in this one. And not only was he a former Panther, he was also a former South Carolina Gamecock. So this is going back to his old stomping grounds in the Queen City at Bank of America Stadium. I think he's going to put on a little revenge show. Nothing says revenge like scoring in your ex-team's end zone, doing a little celebration dance in another team's jersey. Speaking of celebration dances, it reminds me you owe me a air guitar. My touchdown hit as well. That is true. But we didn't have a commenter saying I should do something. We had one saying you should. Okay, I can do air guitar. So for those of you that didn't watch, we had a commenter say that I should do the Austin Eckler touchdown dance, which if you know Austin Eckler, he does the air guitar. That was Tyler's touchdown call last week, and so you know what, I'm gonna do it. Oh, look at that. I love it. Okay, that probably wasn't that good. Can we wipe that from the internet? Probably not. Unfortunately, you're the master of all the outtakes. At least I have editing control. Yeah, you're the master of all the outtakes here, so I just get trolled on our shorts. That was a little subpar, but maybe I'll work on it. Right. Can you just, if I did that, can you do the gritty one of these days? That would just be wonderful. We'll see. All right. We'll see. We'll make that bet down the line. Speaking of bets, let's get to our prop bets in this one. Tyler, where are you headed in the prop market? I'm going to DJ Moore over 57.5 receiving yards. He's hit it in 2 of 3 with Walker. The one that he didn't was when Walker got pulled. Atlanta is ranked 32nd, allowing 211 yards to the wide receiver over the last 9 games. So let's go DJ Moore. Book it. All right, DJ Moore. Gosh, why'd you have to pick the guy that sent me packing in fantasy football? Are you doing that on purpose? I gotta troll you. I'm going with Cordarrelle Patterson over 6.5 receiving yards. First came back off the IR. He had a reception for 9 yards. He was 44 rush yards, 2 rush touchdowns in that one, so racking up the points for fantasy owners. He's hit that receiving yards over in 3 of 5 games. Carolina ranks 27th in pass
defense DVOA versus running backs. So Patterson's in a great spot in this one. He can do it all. Falcons were always moving him around. I do expect them to incorporate him in the passing game in this one and easily surpass that 6.5 receiving yards. For me, that's just way too low.
It is too low. I mean, it's one catch.
Exactly.
Which he should get. He is an X-wide receiver.
So make sure those are available on Underdog and PrizePicks. So make sure to lock those in. If you don't already have those apps, make sure to download them. It's a great way to place your prop bets. New users who use our promo code can get up to $100 of your deposit match. So make sure to check that out. Put your props in at PrizePicks and Underdog Fantasy. You ready for some game picks? We've been crushing it lately. Well, at least brush it off. I got the last one, Monday Night Football. Who picked the Ravens and who did not?
Yeah, I didn't get the primetime ones.
Got that one.
What about our Underdog Sunday picks?
That's true. Fair enough.
Yeah,
All right.
yep.
All right. So, game picks for this one. Atlanta Falcons favored by just 3 points. What do you make of this game? Who are you going with?
I got to go with the Falcons here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Carolina they're just bad.
They're one of the worst football teams in the NFL right now.
Yeah, I mean,
they got rid of their coach for a reason.
Which
they are
has
not
helped them tremendously. They have looked
actually,
much better.
Yeah, good point.
But yeah, I still got to go Falcons.
I'm also going Falcons. Atlanta's actually won this matchup with Carolina 8 out of the last 10 games, so they basically own Carolina in this point. Also, Cordarrelle Patterson is back in this one. He wasn't in the game that was 2 weeks ago. Had he been in, I think they would have just shut down the Carolina Panthers.
He would have got over his 6.5 receiving yards.
He absolutely would have. Also, so he joins that attack with Tyler Algier. I think that's one of the most dynamic rushing attacks probably in the NFL, okay?
Whoa.
Maybe.
Whoa.
I'm just saying that's a pretty dynamic duo right there. Carolina, meanwhile, is one of the worst rushing defense teams.
Very true.
So I think there's that as well. Carolina hasn't beaten Atlanta at home since 2017. There is no way I'm backing Carolina Panthers in this one.
Yeah.
No way. Yeah. The game total 44.5.
I'll go over.
You're going over. What's your rationale?
I think we could see like a 27-20 game here. Both defenses struggle. They're on struggle street. The offenses, Carolina should be able to run the ball a little bit, give them some points there. And then I don't think the Falcons are going to have an issue moving the ball. I'm going
under, Tyler.
I mean, it is a primetime game. Makes sense. Yeah. Primetimes go under.
I think the natural inclination will be for people to go with the over in this one, especially considering they combined for 71 points 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
However, I just don't see it happening again. Yes. Atlanta actually has the second slowest time in seconds per play. Weather could be a factor as well in this one. It's something to keep an eye on. That could slow things down if there is any rain in the forecast, which right now it's looking like it won't hit until after the game, but still something to consider there. This game is not in the dome. PJ Walker is going to have to make these incredible throws that he made 2 weeks ago. I don't see that happening. He certainly wasn't looking like that himself against the Bengals.
That is for sure. But that's a good defense.
I am taking the under. Also, some trends to back it up here. Total has gone under in 13 of the last 19 matchups between Carolina and Atlanta. It's gone under in 4 of Atlanta's last 6 games. Give me the under.
All right.
Yeah,
I mean, prime times pretty much all year have been unders.
Yeah. So they haven't been that exciting. Although the Panthers and the Falcons, as I talked about at the top of the show, probably the most exciting game that we've seen this season.
It's funny because this is an absolute just, I don't know what term I want to use for how bad.
I mean, you have a 4-5 team going up against a 2-7 team. It doesn't exactly scream. However, there are some implications in this one, especially given the NFC South is on the line, surprisingly, in this one.
Yeah. It's a dumpster fire game. If the Falcons weren't tied for first, it would seem way worse and they're tied for first. So
who do you think comes away with the crown in the NFC South?
The Bucs are going to get it.
Yeah.
I think that they will figure out that offensive line eventually. Mm-hmm. Not totally where they're good, but good enough to beat this division.
It's not hard. Much. It's not saying something.
No.
It's not saying much.
So.
Yeah, I also think so. Tom Brady, that game-winning touchdown drive might have sparked a little something. We finally saw a little Brady magic at the end there in that game against the Rams.
Yeah.
It's still not a team you want to back as far as a deep playoff run.
No. But definitely not.
Definitely this NFC South is not good. Who would have thought? Oh, divisions like the AFC East, the Jets are just dominating. Meanwhile, the NFC South with a guy like Tom Brady is on the place called Struggle Street that we like to say.
Can you guys tell that Shannon had a good weekend?
We had a good weekend. Georgia Jets. It was just a great. Not only did the Jets win, they beat the Bills, the Super Bowl favorites this year. Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, we're still waiting on word on Josh Allen. This is Tuesday, so we don't know yet if he's going to play this weekend. That's another big storyline.
Pro Football Doc is saying he's unlikely.
Yeah. I don't know. All right. Well, for more information that we just talked about, linestarapp.com is where you can find all of the analytics and statistics to help you dominate. Also, check out our Props Edge tool. It's one that we've been using to pick our props, and we've been having some success with it. So make sure to check that out as well. Again, if you're watching us on YouTube and you're enjoying our content, do us a big favor and press the like button and subscribe to our channel. Helps us out, and it helps you out. You keep up with all of our content that we're coming out with, like these Thursday night previews. Later this week, we'll also have our props show, which, I'm not going to lie, it's one of my favorite shows to do, picking out props each week for the Underdog fantasy apps and the PrizePicks app, so make sure to check those out as well. That's going to do it for our Thursday night football preview. Enjoy the game. Good luck in all your daily fantasy and prop bets. We'll see you next time.
Have a good one, guys. Bye.